Assalamualaikum. I am Dr. Tasnim Ahmed, Assistant Professor, Department of Pediatrics. Today our topic of presentation is bronchial asthma. What is bronchial asthma? Bronchial asthma is one of the major cause of respiratory distress in children. The other causes of respiratory distress are bronchiolitis and pneumonia. We have already known about bronchiolitis and pneumonia in our previous classes. So, now we will learn about bronchial asthma. So, what is bronchial asthma? The definition is bronchial asthma is a chronic inflammatory disorder of airway. Bronchial asthma is a chronic inflammation of airway. What does it causes? It causes hyperresponsiveness of airway. It causes hyperresponsiveness of airway to certain stimuli. Initially, we will learn about the definition. Okay. Chronic inflammation of airway which causes hyperresponsiveness of airway to certain stimuli that results in recurrent airway obstruction. That results in recurrent airway obstruction. This is the main basic of the disease. Bronchial asthma is a chronic inflammation of airway that causes hyperresponsiveness of airway to certain stimuli and that causes recurrent airway obstruction and manifested as cough, respiratory distress, wheeze and chest tightness. So, what is bronchial asthma? Bronchial asthma is chronic inflammation of airway that causes hyperresponsiveness of airway to certain stimulus resulting in recurrent airflow obstruction and manifested as four manifestation: cough, respiratory distress, wheeze and chest tightness. This is the basic idea of the disease. This is the basic idea of the disease. Okay. So, there is hyperresponsiveness of airway to certain stimuli. So, what are the certain stimuli or the inciting factors? What are the certain stimuli or inciting agents? Inciting agents are viral fever, smoke exposure, exposure to smoke, viral fever, smoke exposure, dust, pollen exposure, stressful condition and excitement. These are the stimuli or inciting agents. So, whenever an asthmatic patient are exposed to these inciting agents, her airway become hyperresponsive. So, say this is the airway of a asthmatic patient, bronchial asthma patient, this is the airway of a asthmatic patient. So, when this airway is exposed to these inciting agents, when this airway is exposed to these inciting agents like viral fever, smoke, dust, the airway become hyperresponsive. The airway become hyperresponsive. So, what happens there? So, what happens there? That is the pathogenesis. That is the pathogenesis. Okay. So, what is the pathogenesis? Whenever the airway of an asthmatic patient is exposed to the inciting agents, the airway become hyperresponsiveness. So, this is the airway of an asthmatic patient. Here, what happens there? Whenever the patient is exposed to inciting agents, the airway become hyperresponsive and there incite and local inflammation. How there is local inflammation producing? There are some inflammatory cells like mast cells, mostly the mast cells and eosinophils. eosinophil. Mast cell and eosinophils are recruited here. These cells are recruited in this space, okay? And after that these cells liberate some inflammatory mediators like interleukins, prostaglandins and histamines. These are the inflammatory mediators released by these cells in the airway, okay? And what these inflammatory mediators does? The inflammatory mediators here causes some effect. What are the effects? In this airway, they stimulate the vagal nerve, the goblet cells in the airway, and the blood vessels. The inflammatory mediators act on these three sites. So, what effect they exert are in the goblet cell they increase the secretion. In the goblet cells they increases the mucus secretion, okay. In the vagus nerve they stimulate the vagus nerve and there is bronchoconstriction. In the vagus nerve they stimulate the vagus nerve and there is bronchoconstriction. And what they does on the blood vessel? On the blood vessel there is vasodilation and ultimately there is edema of the mucous membrane of bronchus. So, ultimately what is happening in the bronchus? Ultimately there is increased mucus secretion due to over secretion of the goblet cell, there is bronchoconstriction due to stimulation of the vagus nerve, and there is edematous airway due to vasodilatation. These three effects together causes airflow obstruction. Ultimately there is airflow obstruction. Like this is the normal bronchus, and ultimately in case of bronchial asthma what is happening? There is increased mucus secretion. This is the lumen of a normal bronchus. And this is the lumen of a asthmatic bronchus. What is happening? The airway becomes ultimately narrow and this is the lumen becomes irregular. There is edematous mucosa and increased mucus secretion here. So, ultimately the airway is becoming narrow and there is airflow limitation. Okay, and which causes increased work of breathing in the lungs. As there is airflow limitation, there becomes hyperinflation of the lungs. It means air is entering into the lungs and the alveoli that are already inflated. Alveolus are like balloons, they are already inflated, and whenever there is airway obstruction, the alveoli becomes more inflated, and so there is features of hyperinflation. So, this is the ultimate pathogenesis of the disease. Now, what are the clinical features? The symptoms will be, what will be the symptoms? The symptoms will be, there will be cough, respiratory distress. What are the features of respiratory distress? We have already known in our previous classes what are the features of respiratory distress. The features of respiratory distress are flaring of Alanasi, there will be grunting, there will be head nodding, there will be intercostal and subcostal indrawing. Okay. These will be the features of symptoms of distress. And what will be the signs? What will be the signs? The child will be tachypnic, there will be tachypnea. If the respiratory distress is severe, there will be cyanosis. Signs of respiratory distress will be there. Signs of respiratory distress will be there. Okay. And on examination of chest, what will be the chest findings? The chest findings will be, there may be some deformities. There may be some deformities of the chest like pigeon chest, Respiratory rate may be increased. There may be chest indrawing. Respiratory rate may be increased and there may be chest indrawing. And on auscultation, there is an important findings, that is breath sound will be vesicular. Breath sound will be vesicular with prolonged expiration. Breath sound will be vesicular with prolonged expiration. Okay. And there will be added sound rhonchi. Added sound will be rhonchi. On symptom there will be wheeze, and on sign we will get rhonchi. Okay. So, how will we diagnose bronchial asthma? Bronchial asthma diagnosis is mostly clinical. Bronchial asthma diagnosis is mostly clinical diagnosis. Okay. On what basis? On basis of clinical feature, and family history. Family history of bronchial asthma or atopy. There will be family history of bronchial asthma or atopy. What is atopy? Atopy is manifested by conjunctivitis, mostly allergic conjunctivitis and allergic rhinitis. Allergic conjunctivitis and allergic rhinitis. These features will be present in family. So, we will think that there is a family history of atopy, or whenever there is family history of bronchial asthma, we will think that if the child present with repeated respiratory distress and there is family history of bronchial asthma, we will think about bronchial asthma clinically. And for diagnosis, what can we do for diagnosis? For diagnosis, we can do a chest X-ray. Simple chest X-ray. What will be the findings of chest X-ray? There will be features of hyperinflation. What are the features of hyperinflation? The features of hyperinflation are horizontal rib shadow. The rib shadows will be horizontal and there will be low flat diaphragm. So, there are two features of hyperinflation, horizontal rib shadow and low flat diaphragm, and there will be also hypertranslucency. Hypertranslucency means increased blackening of the lung field. Okay. So, chest X-ray can be done. What are the other investigations we can do? We can do a complete blood count. Here we can get eosinophilia. Eosinophil count will be high. We can also do serum immunoglobulin E level. And lastly, spirometry for confirmation of the diagnosis. Lastly, spirometry, which indicate the lung function test. What is a spirometry? Spirometry is the lung function test for confirmation of the diagnosis. Okay. Now, we come to the classification of bronchial asthma. Classification of bronchial asthma. There are three types of bronchial asthma. Number 1, intermittent. Number 1 is intermittent variety. Number 2 is persistent variety. And number 3 is special variant of asthma. Number 3 is special variant of asthma, intermittent variety, persistent variety, and number 3 is special variant of asthma. How will differentiate the three types? How will you differentiate the three types? For differentiating, there are some points: intermittent and persistent. These two types can be differentiated by some points like daytime symptoms. The patients of bronchial asthma usually present with some daytime symptom and some night symptoms or nocturnal symptoms. Daytime symptoms and nighttime or nocturnal symptoms. Okay. Among the persistent variety, they are again divided in mild persistent, moderate persistent, and severe persistent. Okay. Persistent variety is again divided in mild persistent, moderate persistent, and severe persistent. And whenever there is daytime symptom is less than 2 times per week, daytime symptoms are calculated, the attacks, number of attacks per week, and nighttime symptoms are calculated, the number of attacks per month. Okay. Daytime symptoms are calculated by the number of daytime symptoms per week, and nighttime attacks are calculated by number of attacks per month. Whenever there are attacks for 2 times per week, we classify it as intermittent variant, and when there is daytime symptom number is more than 2, 3 to 4 times per week, we classify it as mild variant. Okay? Mild variant. And when there are daytime attacks daily, this is moderate variant. This is moderate variant, and daytime attacks are persistent in severe variant of persistent asthma. Okay? And in case of nighttime symptoms, what occurs in nighttime symptoms? There are 2 night attacks per month, then it is known as intermittent asthma. When there are 3 to 4 attacks per month, this is mild persistent asthma. More than 5 attacks per month, this is moderate persistent asthma. Moderate persistent asthma, and when there are frequent attacks per month, frequent nighttime attack per month, this is severe persistent asthma. This is severe persistent asthma. And we have to also see the lung function test, that is peak expiratory flow rate. Peak expiratory flow rate. What is that? Peak expiratory flow rate. That peak expiratory flow rate is the volume of air, peak expiratory flow rate, volume of air one can exhale in one expiration after a full inspiration, that is peak expiratory flow rate. The volume of air a person can exhale in one expiration after a full inspiration, that is peak expiratory flow rate. And the normal value of peak expiratory flow rate is more than 80%. It is done by usually spirometry or peak flow meter. Peak expiratory flow rate is calculated by spirometry or by peak flow meter, and the normal value is more than 80%. So, in case of intermittent variety, it will be peak expiratory flow rate will be more than 80%. Also in mild persistent asthma, it will be more than 80%. In case of moderate variety, it will be 60 to 80%, and in case of severe variety, it will be below 60%. Okay. So, in this way we can classify different types of bronchial asthma, and there is another classification. What is that? That is special variant of asthma. Special variant of asthma. What are the types of special variant? The types of special variant asthma are cough variant asthma, exercise induced asthma, stress or emotion induced asthma. Okay. So, these are the classification of asthma. So, now come to acute asthma exacerbation. What is acute asthma exacerbation? This is another special variant of asthma. Whenever any type of asthma loses its control, whenever any type of asthma, that may be intermittent asthma, that may be persistent asthma, whenever any type of asthma loses its control, any type of asthma loses its control any time, then we will call this is acute asthma exacerbation or severe acute asthma or severe acute asthma. Okay. This is another types of asthma, and this is the most serious form of bronchial asthma. Okay. So, what will we do? Now, come to the treatment. What will we do whenever a patient comes to us with bronchial asthma? At first, as the severe acute asthma is the severe complication, we will talk about severe acute asthma, treatment of severe acute asthma. How will you recognize that this is severe acute asthma? The child with present with sudden severe respiratory distress, sudden severe cough, there will be tachypnea, the child will not be able to talk, the child will not be able to eat, and if we check the saturation will be low, partial pressure of oxygen will be low clinically, and in examination of chest there will be vesicular bass sound and there will be widespread rhonchi, okay, and there will be intercostal indrawing and other signs of respiratory distress. So, what will we do? At first, we will immediately hospitalize the patient. Severe acute asthma is an indication of hospitalization. At first, we will hospitalize the child, we will give oxygen, immediately we will give oxygen support with face mask at 5 to 6 liter per minute. We will give bed rest to the patient in propped up position, bed rest in propped up position, oxygen inhalation. These are the supportive measures. These are the supportive measures we will take. What are the supportive measures? We will hospitalize the patient with oxygen inhalation, bed rest, IV fluid. As the child cannot talk or cannot eat, we will give the IV fluid. Okay. Then we will give immediately nebulization. Nebulization with salbutamol. Nebulization with salbutamol. What is salbutamol? Salbutamol is a short acting beta 2 agonist. Short acting beta 2 agonist. What does it does? It causes bronchodilation. It causes bronchodilation. And it causes bronchodilation, it gives relief to the bronchus. It gives relief to the bronchus. So, we will give nebulization with short acting beta 2 agonist, that is salbutamol. The dose is 0.15 to 0.3 milligram per kg. And how many times we will give this? We will give this nebulization for 3 times at 20 minutes interval. 3 times at 20 minutes interval. Okay. Number 1, we are giving nebulization. Okay. Number 1, we are giving nebulization, and as well as along with nebulization we will give injection hydrocortisone. Injection hydrocortisone, steroid injection. What will it do? It will reduce inflammation. Hydrocortisone is a steroid. We will give this to reduce inflammation. Okay? If there is no improvement, then we will go to next step. What is the next step? We will add ipratropium bromide. Ipratropium bromide. Ipratropium bromide, which is an anticholinergic drug. Which is an anticholinergic drug? We all know about anticholinergic drugs. Okay? This is ipratropium bromide. We will add. What is the dose? Ipratropium bromide. What is the dose? Dose is 125 microgram in children below 2 years and 250 microgram in children above 2 years. Of course, we will give nebulization with ipratropium. Nebulization in the form of nebulization. At first, we are giving nebulization with salbutamol along with injection hydrocortisone, and if there is no improvement, we will give ipratropium bromide nebulization. After that, if there is no improvement, we can add injection aminophylline. Injection aminophylline in the IV form. Injection aminophylline intravenous form. We can also give injection adrenaline. Injection adrenaline intravenous. We can also give injection Mag-Sulf. If there is no improvement, we will give these drugs subsequently. Injection aminophylline, then injection adrenaline, then injection Mag-Sulf. And if the respiratory distress is so severe, there is no improvement, then we have to go for ventilator support. For ventilator support, for this we will send the patient to ICU, intensive care unit. So, this is the way of treatment in case of severe acute asthma or acute exacerbation of asthma. So, there are other forms of bronchial asthma also. What are those? Intermittent asthma and persistent asthma. Intermittent and persistent. In these cases, we will give oral medication. In these cases, we will give oral medication. In case of intermittent form, there will be intermittent attack of respiratory distress, and we will give intermittent nebulization. Whenever it is needed, we will give intermittently nebulization. So, we have to know what are the group of drugs used in bronchial asthma. So, we have to know what are the group of drugs we use in case of bronchial asthma. There are 3 groups of drug. Number 1, reliever group of drugs. Number 1 is reliever, number 2 are preventer, number 2 are preventer, and number 3 are protector. Reliever means they relieve the bronchoconstriction. Reliever drugs relieve the bronchoconstriction. What are those reliever drugs? Number 1, bronchodilators, short acting beta 2 agonist, that is salbutamol. That is salbutamol. Bronchodilators, short acting beta 2 agonist, that is salbutamol. Number 2, anticholinergic. These are the reliever drugs, of course, anticholinergic drugs. Anticholinergic drugs, that is ipratropium. Anticholinergic drug, that is ipratropium. And number C, xanthine derivatives. These are also relievers, xanthine derivatives. These are also relievers. What are the xanthine derivatives? Aminophylline and theophylline. Xanthine derivatives are aminophylline and theophylline. So, bronchodilators, anticholinergic and xanthine, these are the reliever drugs. Okay. What are the preventers? Now, come to the preventers. Preventers means these drugs prevent the recurrent attack of respiratory recurrent attack of bronchoconstriction. Preventer drugs prevent recurrent attack of bronchoconstriction. So, what are the preventer drugs? They are the steroids. they are the steroids, mainly glucocorticosteroids. Glucocorticosteroids, these are the preventers. And what are the other preventers? Number 1 steroid, number 2 mast cell stabilizers, mast cell stabilizers like nidochromyl sodium, mast cell stabilizers like nidochromyl sodium. And number C, this is also a preventer, leukotrienes antagonist. These are very important, leukotrienes antagonist. Like montelukast. These are the preventer drugs. So, what are the preventers? Steroid, mast cell stabilizers and leukotrienes antagonist. Okay. And number 3 are protector group of drugs. Protector means that protects the airway from bronchoconstriction. These are long acting beta 2 agonist, long acting beta 2 agonist. These are salmeterol, like salmeterol, long acting beta 2 agonist, that is salmeterol. So, these are the groups of drug used in intermittent variety and persistent variety of asthma. In case of intermittent asthma, we will give intermittent nebulization as we needed, and in case of persistent variety, we have some options. Okay. At first, we have to do counseling about asthma control, Okay. Then we have to give some medication, that is known as step care management. Okay. At first, we will give some drugs for asthma, oral drugs. Then after that, we have to step up or step down. There are some steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like step 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We have to give these drugs in steps. Whenever we start step 1 drugs, like short acting beta 2 agonist, say we are giving short acting beta 2 agonist for 1 month. After 1 month, there is no improvement, then we have to go in further step, that is stepping up. We are going to next step, that is step up. So, in case of these drugs are given in children according to age. These drugs are given in children according to age. In case of 6 years children, 6 years and above, there are step 1 to step 5. In case of below 5 years children, we can give drugs from step 1 to step 3. Okay. Step 1, step 2 and step 3. In case of children less than 5 years, we can give drugs in step 1, step 2 and step 3, and in case of children above 6 years, there are steps from 1 to 5. So, what are the drugs? In step 1, we can use short acting beta 2 agonist, that is salbutamol nebulization occasionally. Whenever there is no improvement, we will go to step 2. What are the drugs in step 2? Low dose inhaled corticosteroid. Low dose inhaled corticosteroid. Inhaled corticosteroid means we can give steroid in inhalation form, in spray form, low dose inhaled corticosteroid. In stage 3, we will go to moderate dose inhaled corticosteroid, and in step 4, there is moderate dose inhaled corticosteroid or high dose inhaled corticosteroid. Along with this, we will use long acting beta 2 agonist. Long acting beta 2 agonist. What is that? That is salmeterol. Long acting beta 2 agonist, that is salmeterol. Okay. In step 5, along with step 4, we will go for add-on drugs. Add-on drugs. What are the add-on drugs? Add-on drugs are immunoglobulin E antagonist. Immunoglobulin E antagonist. These are the add-on drugs in case of step 5. So, whenever there is no improvement in one step, after waiting for 1 month or 2 months, we will go for next step. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and if we go up to step 3 and the child is stable in step 3 for up to 2 and 3 months, we will step down, okay, step down to previous step, okay, step up and step down, okay. So, that is all for the treatment. Another thing is low dose inhaled corticosteroid. Here we have written low dose, moderate dose, high dose. So, what are the doses? We have to know what are the doses. Low dose means inhaled corticosteroid 100 to 200 microgram is low dose inhaled corticosteroid. 200 to 400 microgram is medium dose inhaled corticosteroid or moderate dose. More than 400 microgram is high dose inhaled corticosteroid. Okay. So, that is all for today.